has ever said that the follower have to the opportunity one day gain the same wisdom, the same peace, the same happiness, and the same salvation as the Father. The Buddha said that everyone can become a Buddha if the person use the same practices as the Buddha method. That the use of the achieve perfection, the aim of Buddhism is to give mankind the opportunity to attain the highest happiness through a clear understanding of life and nature. Buddhism gives a clear picture of both kinds of life, the life of suffering and the life of happiness. Buddhism explains the real nature of life, the cause of suffering and the cause of happiness. Buddhism is the religions presented to mankind in terms of the experience, realization, wisdom, and enlightenment of its founder. Human problems must be addressed by human beings in terms of human experience through the development of great human virtues. Mankind must the solution to human problems through the purification and development of the mind. The Buddha revealed the absolute truth. If there is a truth anywhere, it remains forever as the truth. The truth revealed by the Buddha is called the noble truth. It enables a man beings to become some noble persons. Buddhism teaches us that every reap that he or she sows, it is universal laws, the laws of anicca, impermanent, dukkha, suffering, and anatta, non-self. The law that good produce good and the bad produce bad, and the law that every action has a reaction. It is that we are the result of what we were, and that we will be the results of what we are. Buddhism considers virtue as one of the things necessary for teaching holiness. The other is wisdom. Wisdom and virtue can be compared to the eyes and feet of a man. Virtue is like the vehicle that brings a man to the gate of salvation. But the actual key that opens the gate is wisdom. Buddhism presents clear and reasonable answers to important questions regarding human life. It provides a solid foundation for helping human beings reach a better, positive way of life. Buddhists believe in the importance of self-exertion. They believe in the effectiveness of meditation, which leads to self-conquest, self-control, and self-purification. Meditation leads to relief from suffering and to enlightenment because it serves as a medicine for both the heart and the mind. Words to guide your life. Hatred is overcome only by love. Darkness cannot be driven away by darkness, but only the brightness. Hatred cannot be overcome by hatred, but only by loving kindness. Failure in life helps us reach success because failure supports success. Never to have failed is never to have won. Unless we experience failure, we will never appreciate the sweetness of victory. Failures not only help us success, but also make us energetic, enthusiastic, and rich in experience. Happy is the who makes others happy. Happy is the who aspires to high and noble things. Happy is he who enriches the lives of others. Happy is he who makes it possible for others to live in peace. Happy is he who makes this world a better place in which to love. Happy is the who makes this world a better place in which to live. Happy is the whose daily works is a labor of love. Happy is he who loves to love. If you sacrifice your pride, you will find inner peace. Though it is difficult indeed to overcome one's pride, it is certainly advisable to do so. If a person is able to sacrifice his or her pride, then inner peace and happiness can be found. Fear can ruin a person's life. It fills one with perturbation and anguish. It progressively erodes in life and debases the mind. Fear works hand in hand with pessimism to darken the future. Fear undermines the way a person thinks. Fear is capable of eroding one's personality and making him landlord to a ghost. Mankind prays for peace, but there can be no peace in the world until the conflicts within man himself are resolved. For this to be achieved, there is an urgent need to train the mind. We may ask, how do we train our minds? It is a relevant question, but the more important question is, do we want to train our minds? If the answer is yes, accompanied by the real commitment, then it is certainly possible to develop the skill to train the mind. The fundamental law of mind. As you see, you feel. As you see, so you feel. As you feel, so you think. As you think, so you will. As you will, so you act. So the important Dhamma or the Buddha teaching, the one that everyone very interesting to observe, to study, and to get the real understanding. That is Dhamma. It is no surprise that we are going to die on a one day-to-day basis. How many people think about the next life. If you are Buddhist, you have to look at your life as continuing, as a process of birth and death. We are in a constant state of becoming. I like the analogy of going to the airport with a suitcase. I put the suitcase on the conveyor belt so it can be loaded into the luggage compartment of the plane. However, I do not get on the plane. The suitcase contains my karma. When it gets into the destination, the next person picks it up. He or she has to work with the contents of suitcase. These persons can get more clothes or better ones if deeds of the generosity and compassion are done. On the other hand, the clothes can turn into rags if the life live in one of the greed, anger, hatred, and delusion. Do not go to the next life. My karma does. Ladies and gentlemen, look at another Buddha teaching that we should understand correctly. Rebirth. What does rebirth mean? So many people have asked about life after death and rebirth. The Buddha said that karma is created by agent, a person, a living being. Sooner or later, we are going to die. And so, sooner or later, we will have to be reborn again. The realms of existence into which we can be reborn are confined to who? The favorable and the unfavorable. Where we are reborn depends upon our previous karma. The reality of life after death can be proven in the many ways. There are many cases of people vividly remembering their past lives. In one instance, the recollections of the past lives was so clear that even though the parents has previously not believed in a life after death, they were now convinced as a result of the quality of their child's recollections. The child not only clearly recalled having lived in a nearby village that she recognized, but was also able to identify her previous parents, whom she otherwise would have had no reason to know. If there is no life after death, there is no past life, and another explanation for just recollection will have to be found. There are also many cases of parents having two children brought up into the same way under the same circumstances. Yet, one is much more successful than the other. Just differences comes about as a result of differences in our past karma. Death is nothing other than the separation of consciousness from the physical body. If you do not accept the reality of consciousness, I think it is also very difficult to explain exactly what life is. Buddhism and mankind. Look at this word. It's very important because everyone in every corner of the world asking for human right. The Buddha describes his teaching as being Santitika, this is Pali word, primarily is concerned with this world, with this life. Even the highest happiness, that of Nibbana, is to striving for in this very life. Buddhism lays the greatest stress on the absolute need for making the best of the other fleeting present, so that the future is the ensure for our well-being. The past is gone beyond recall. Only the present is available to us for a good life. The future is yet to come, and what we make, if it depends entirely upon what we do now. We are Buddhist monks living in the world, as just we are deeply concerned about the actively working for the happiness and welfare of not only human beings, but also all living creatures. Wherever Buddhism made its way, it encouraged the growth of the culture and the civilization makes by tolerance, humanity, sympathy, and understanding. It promoted the spirit of the twin value of karuna, compassion, and panya, wisdom. Panya and karuna come together, make your success in your life, and also you can find the real happiness. The law of change, this one also, the people cannot accept it, especially in the West. We cannot stop the world. It will go through changing. Change, as the Buddha said, is the fundamental facts of life. Our every survival is born up with change. Because of its emphasis on change, modern man can find Buddhism particularly relevant in his age. Buddhism accepts change. In fact, it is built upon the truth of constant change and flowing. We must cultivate the qualities of resilience, recovering from misfortune, and adaptability or flexibility. The fundamental teachings of the Buddha is that nothing happens except as a result of causes. Once the causes are investigated and understood, solutions can be found. Bring peace to the world, because now the people asking for peace, but they make peace with the war and weapon. That is not the way of Buddhism. The Buddha never mentioned about the peace in the world outside the body and mind. The Buddha also teaches that the only way to achieve peace is by getting rid of the root causes of war: greed, hatred, and ignorance. The world will not have peace until men and nations renounce selfish desires, give up racial pride, and clean themselves of their egotistical lust for possessions and power. Idolatry divides and brings about conflict. The Buddha declared that the mind is the foremost, the forerunners of all actions, good or bad. When the mind is clear of evil, peace and happiness rule. There can be no peace and happiness on earth as long as there is poverty and starvation, injustice and oppression. Discriminative laws, racial secretion and social intricacies, all these bring with them fear, mutual distrust, and suspicions. Self-respect is necessary for happiness as food. Furthermore, there can be no self-respect among those who do not have the opportunity to achieve their full potential as human beings. So back to the great thing in the human life, the Buddha said ordination as the great honor. In Pali words, the Pali language, ordination is called papacha, which means to avoid incorrect or unworthy action, and incorrect speech and thought. Another sense of papachas involves reference as the person who gives up family, material possessions, worldly obligations, and the activities of the workday world. Therefore, a person who becomes ordained has to cut his hair, change his appearance, and wear clothing that is different from that of lay persons. Just a person wears a yellow robe, dressing like a monk, he is called bhikkhu. Knowing yourselves, the problem of change in Pali, anicca in Pali language, the problem of change in the physical and mental life of teenagers. Nowadays, teenagers try to study the meanings of life and try to know themselves. That's a very important. Today, I would like to share some thoughts that come from self-observation. There are problems that may occur in the lives of teenagers today and of those in the future. Teens, many have problems that they cannot solve by themselves. So that parents and teachers have an important role to play in helping them properly, educate them, to understand them. Young people, after all, are the hope of the future. Youth have to train perfectly in body and mind. Knowledge, furthermore, has to come with virtue. If the young generation has only knowledge but lacks of virtue, it is like having only one eye. If order that the young have two eyes, we have to ensure they have both knowledge and virtue. The problem is how to gain knowledge and how to develop virtue. How did you get the knowledge yourself? You get to know yourselves by observing your body and your mind. Mind is the forerunner of all actions. Mind is the master. All actions are mind-made. If a person thinks with an unwholesome mind and speaks and acts accordingly, suffering will follow just as the wheel of cart follows the ox that pulls it. However, if a person thinks with a wholesome mind and speaks and acts and accordingly, happiness will follow as a shadow follows a moving object. Knowing yourself is knowing your mind. We must the rhythm of breathing in and out to help us observe the working of the mind. There are three levels of breathing: deep breathing, The air passes through the nose to the abdomen. Medium breathing, the air passes from the nose to the chest. And the short breathing, the air passes in and out quickly at the nose. After you have focused on your breathing and are observing it carefully, you relax your all muscles and your mind to get a calm and clear mind. Now you can control the mind because you have attained the level of concentration where you have the mind working for you. Mental detoxification is the technique for internal cleaning. Mental toxins, it's become poisons. The mental toxins are the cause of stress. Nowadays, people in the big city, they get a lot of stress, depressed because of their work, their life, so busy. What should we know and how can we release the old stress? We should know the four great elements. The first thing, earth elements, the solid thing, fire or heat, wind or air, and water or liquid. We should also know the impermanence of everything. The combination of body and mind constitutes life. All living human beings are impermanent, out of control, hard to maintain, constantly changing, and non-self. All living human beings are impermanent, out of control, hard to maintain, constantly changing, and non-self. The purpose of meditation is to purify the mind with regard to hatred, greed, and ignorance, to overcome the anger, attachment, and delusion that poison the mind at all times. Develop loving kindness and the ability to see things as not as you want them to be. Develop loving kindness and compassion in order to make the world a peaceful one, a better place in which to live. To develop loving kindness means that when you see someone doing something wrong, you should not condemn or hate the person, but rather advise him as the doctor advises a patient. The doctor does not blame or condemn the patient for being sick, but diagnoses the sickness and treats the patient. The universal law applying the good get good, the bad get bad. We are the results of what we were, and we will be the results of what we are. Being grateful for one's parents is a characteristic of a noble one, a noble person. In Buddha teachings, so very, very emphasis on that because it is important to listen to one's elders. Young people or young persons in general should pay more attention to the advice of their parents. Children growing up and becoming teenagers are constantly changing physically and mentally. Teenagers have a tendency to put more trust in their friends than they do in their parents. However, it is dangerous for teens to live their life without the advice of their elders. The trouble, the problem, they should seek the help of their elders their parents or teacher. They can even get religious teachers to pray for them. If they wait too long, it may unfortunately be too late to get advice and help. Experience will eventually come with age, but in the meantime, it is important for teenagers to get help when they need it. It is important for the teenager to be able to think in a positive way. Teenagers today are living in a modern, fast-paced world that can create many problems for them. Teens need to be watchful about envy that can come through competition, anger that can come because of the short temper, and hurting others, and can come from being insulted. The great question is how one is to conquer oneself. And answer is to conquest oneself through conquering your mind or conquering the mind. A person has to develop the mind, reacts situation quite differently from one who has not. Just a person says, I cannot do anything evil to this man. I cannot get angry with this person. I cannot say anything to cause him pain, and I cannot do anything harm to him. Maybe it would hurt me. However, if I do harm to this man, in turn, I hurt someone who is just like me, who wants happiness and does not want to suffer just as I do. Mankind seeks real peace, happiness, and security in this life. However, this cannot be found if the mind remains poisoned with all the defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion, ignorance, attachments, aversion, and craving. Thus, there is an urgent need to train the mind. The real meanings of life is not to do evil, but to do good and to purify the mind. So thank you very much for spending the time with me and listening to my talk today. I hope that you enjoy and get the benefit from my talk today.